to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Lock Shop. Dusty with you. Huss joining here right away as well. Lock Shop brought to you by our great partners at Coolbet. And man, there's a big buzz around the building right now. We just filmed our first installment of a new bit we're calling The Odds Couple, which is a competitive competition between YouTube Trev and Zacticum. It'll be available on Coolbet Social a little bit later on. Today, we had a best of 7 rock, paper, scissors between the odds couple. And Huss, I have to tell you, the emotions were real. I was sitting there calling out the wins as it happened. And God, it was a very, very intense 71 seconds. I'll tell you that.
Who took it? Oh, I guess we can't.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
When can we look forward to seeing this?
I just sent it to Jake, so maybe sometime later today or tomorrow.
Did you guys bet on it?
Well, I did set Zach as a minus 180 favorite, and that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. He was talking a big game last night. We were texting, right, Trev? You were in the text last night. I said, hey, you guys, tomorrow, rock, paper, scissors, first installment of the odds couple. And Zach right away was like, I got this. Like, I'm really good at rock, paper, scissors. I was like, calm down. But because of his confidence, I made him a minus 180 favorite.
Well, Trev, I'm not sure if you can hear this right now, but how do you feel being disrespected like that? It's basically a coin flipping competition, and they made you a 2-1 underdog. I mean,
you know what? I am the rookie of the year, so
you did win rookie of the year.
It did hurt, but yeah, no, I had fun. It was a fun video. I can't wait for the nasties to see this one.
Well, listen, I hope this one works out well. I'm definitely here for more disc golf videos a la Tommy Gazzola in the shortest shorts around. John Stockton was proud of that one. So keep up the content, boys. I'm loving it.
It's funny. I see Matt and Penner's Pancakes saying they were watching or listening to the Hangout, and there was a commotion outside of and that was us shooting the odds couple video. So it's creating a buzz. Like I said, a lot of emotions. Emotions are running high here around the EST offices today with the NHL season just a week away. We'll get to our NHL future show coming up. I got 10 different player props, and I'm even I'm sprinkling in a couple of unders this year, Huss. Just a couple of unders. So you can't get too carried away with the overs.
You know what? As I was going through these, I think we may need to do a little test of my theory that if you blindly bet unders, and you know where I'm going with this, we need the wheel.
Whoa.
We need the wheel, and I will personally bet these myself. But we put on, like, I don't know how big the wheel is or how many players we can
I can get 14 on this wheel, buddy. 14 on here.
We can randomly pick a bunch of guys, and we will spin the wheel, and I will bet under on every one of their total points for the season.
I like
and
this.
At the end of the year, we'll see. Maybe I'll do 5. I'll put 20 on each guy.
Okay.
And then at the end of the year, we'll see whether the theory of blindly betting unders is whether the wheel is just and whether the take was just.
Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this tomorrow? Or do you want me to have the boys get this wheel prepped for later in the show today?
Well, we don't need to do it today. Today
Okay.
we'll do our legitimate, guys that we've been looking at that we like. But maybe the season starts next week.
It does. It kind of starts this week with some because there's some European games, I believe. I think it starts in like 2 days.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Now, if guys don't play yet, their futures would still be on the board. When does the regular season start?
Why don't we do it tomorrow?
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. We can do it tomorrow. We'll have that board ready tomorrow.
So yeah, we will make that happen. I'm interested to see. And you know what? I'm feeling quite confident, about anything to do with randomness right now, because and I think I predicted this at the end of August. Like, thank God the NFL season was coming on, because this is the time where my fortunes usually start trending upwards significantly. And I have taken the heat from the NFL to the diamond in Major League Baseball, where, to be honest, outside of plays of the day where I kind of dig in on daily slates, trying to find something to throw out during the year and bet on, with the Jays sucking the way they did and kind of not paying attention to them for the last 3 months of the season, I didn't really start tuning back into baseball until the last couple of weeks, just kind of seeing who was going to make the playoffs. And obviously I was keeping tabs on the Royals throughout the year. But how's that for a way to start off the Major League Baseball playoffs in the lock shop? Royals, check. Play of the day, Mets, check. Both as underdogs of plus 125 or plus 130. And then we come together for the double play, which was plus 467. I think I made about, well, let's see. Yesterday, I put 40 on the Padres to win the World Series. I put 35 on Jaden Daniels to win the MVP during the show.
During the show, yeah.
A couple of other ones, and I'm still 150 up on where we started yesterday right now, including having bet these two games today already. So we're in good spot. I hope that we can keep it going through today at least, because these wild card games, I don't know how much you were able to watch yesterday, Dusty. I watched more baseball yesterday than I did probably the entire season.
I got the Padres after the kids were in bed. I sat down and sort of settled into the Padres game. And we talked about it on our show this morning, man. Like, I love the NFL. NFL playoffs are cool. I'm a little bit more intrigued, but I still love it. CFL playoffs, so short, get pumped up. NHL playoffs kind of, I love them both. NBA, my interest gets pumped up a bit. There's nothing like baseball. Like baseball, I'm like, I'll check in every once in a while. And then baseball playoffs hit, and you're like, every single pitch on the edge of your seat. It's just, playoff baseball is electric. It's just electric. It's awesome. I wish they could suck some of that into the regular season. I was talking about that this morning.
Well, I mean, my God, there's 162 games.
It's impossible to do, right? Like, how would you do that?
You hear this? The NHL is going to add some more games.
They're going to cut back some preseason, add it to the regular season, maybe 84.
84 games. I mean, I know the greed in professional sports knows no bounds, and the real goal is not to win the Stanley Cup. It's to maximize HRR. But for crying out loud, 84-game regular season. I mean, this game would be so much better if it was a 70-game season. And do whatever you want with the preseason. Make it 4 games, make it 6 games. But you start the season a little earlier. You end it earlier. You're not going into the 3rd or 4th week of June with the Cup final. I mean, I will never expect them to do anything that in the end will make them less money. So I think we're going to be, we're a little SOL when it comes to that. But I heard that and I'm like, good Lord, they had 84 games before and they actually went back from it because it was absurd. We're going to do that again, all in the name of cutting down the preseason.
But still wanting to make money? Like, come on.
The big story about the preseason right now is all these guys getting hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny. I was watching the Chargers-Chiefs game in Montreal with Feinberg, and he was like, he wasn't expecting the Chargers to win. All he wanted was to get out of that game healthy. He was worried every time Herbert stepped back to throw a pass that he was going to get killed. And I think that's what teams are going through right now in the preseason. Great news on Patrick Laine. He's not out for the year. He's going to be out 2 to 3 months, which sounds terrible, but at the same time, a hell of a lot worse than it could have been. But man, we've seen some brutal injuries. And then the Gong Show last night. I mean, the Jekai, the Wi-Fi hit.
Yeah.
On Stützle. I can't believe. I mean, George Peros is in midseason form. No, not even a hearing. Oh, accident.
Well, it was interesting. It's funny because it looked like when they slowed it down, the angles were not good from what I saw. It almost looked like he came through, missed the head, hit the hands, and the stick came into the face. But the intent, I mean, we know what he was trying to do there. And he's very, very lucky he did not actually catch Stützle right on the bloody jaw. Like at some point you have to send a message when you know the intent is there. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So late.
Yeah. Well, and it was crazy late. I mean, that alone. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want. It was late. It was predatory. It knocked the guy out of the game. And I mean, at the end, the way he put his shoulder up, it certainly didn't seem like he was trying to miss his head. I was shocked at that. We were talking about it last night. And again, I didn't have the benefit of that super slow-mo replay that kind of showed it was the stick. But I mean, you do not want to have that sort of stuff happening right now in the preseason and losing important players before things even get going right now. So we got a game tonight here in Winnipeg, Jets and the Flames.
Well, we're a week away from Oilers and Jets to get us going next Wednesday, buddy. What a show.
1 week from tonight. How's the lock shop going to be that day? That will be
that'll be a good one.
that will be fun. It's too bad that the timing didn't work out better. I could have come back for that game. It would have been a fun way to kick off the season with you guys. Of course, last year when I came out for the Oilers-Jets game, you were in Winnipeg.
I know.
Famously calling the Bombers and Elks.
I live a dream. I have a dream, Huss. I have a dream that you and I are sitting in this studio one day doing a lock shop together. You know?
Hey, that you know what? That will happen this year. I guarantee you that will happen this year. I'll fire up WST from EST afterwards on the road. But I was hoping it would be a little later on. I was not prepared for the opening game of the season to be the Jets' visit to Edmonton. Now that I think about it, are the Oilers here twice this year?
I don't know. Let's look that up.
I've got this. I've got the schedule.
You got the schedule?
Oilers, or wait a sec, do they only play each other 2 times?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm looking here. They don't play again until
game of the season and April 13th.
What?
That's the April 13th. That's the second last game of the season here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, third last game for the Oil in Winnipeg. That's it. Dang.
It's only 2 games this year. Well, that's a bummer. Although, frankly, from a Jets perspective, the Oilers are a bit of a wagon. I can handle only dealing with them twice in the season and then potentially in the playoffs if they're fortunate enough to get there. But we're in good shape right now. So far, so good. Although, the Oilers have any significant injuries through camp?
No. Darnell Nurse hasn't played a preseason game yet. He was kind of nursing. Well, Evander Kane, obviously, he's out. But Nurse I guess he's been cleared to play now. So he might get a preseason game or 2 here, and then that'll be the end of it. Like at this point, I said today, like McDavid's been talking about wanting to get some more game action with the entire group because you haven't really sort of seen the entire team lines 1 through 4 together yet. But I mean, I wouldn't let that guy step on the ice in preseason again for the next 2 games. I mean, you're Connor McDavid. You're going to be fine next Wednesday against the Winnipeg Jets. The last thing any of these teams need right now is somebody just like the Drew Doughty thing. He was just going into the boards to make a play, and he sort of slipped up and went in heavily and busted up his ankle. Like that could happen to anybody in any moment. So I'd put McDavid in bubble wrap until next Wednesday and then unleash him. But apparently he wants to get some preseason action in. So
yeah, well, it's been weird. I mean, the Jets last year were so healthy on the blue line. Like almost,
so were the Oilers, buddy, all season. No injuries.
It didn't happen. And then the only one that happened was Ville Heinola, who had made the team out of camp, broke his ankle in the final preseason game against Ottawa, missed the first half of the season, and then was sort of rehabbing, played back with the Moose, and never really got into any games. This was going to be his year. I mean, no longer waivers exempt, was going to be on the team. Well, he has an infection in his surgically repaired ankle. They had to take one of the screws out. He's out for long term. And then apparently Logan Stanley now just had knee surgery and he's going to be out for a month. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about their 6th and 7th defenseman. It'd be a little probably more concerning if it was one of their top 4, but we're going to see somebody new. Elias Salmonson, the rookie, is really impressed. I'm very looking forward to seeing what he could do tonight playing with the top guys. And then what was it? Hayden Fleury was a former 7th overall pick. I think he's probably the most likely guy to go in if they are looking for a placeholder for Villiers Stan in the 6th spot. Otherwise, though, it should be interesting tonight. I mean, Calgary, as teams do, they're not really sending their big guys on the road, just a few guys. So speaking of which, I've done my best to stay away from betting any NHL preseason, but I will. But
you're sick, Huss.
I see that, and they're smart. They're waiting for these lineups to come out right now. We don't have the Jets.
Cowboy quickly just said in the chat, the Jets are in Edmonton on March 20th.
Oh,
so just a heads up.
All right. Well, that's a perfect time. Spring fever. Maybe we'll head out for that game. Thank you, Cowboy.
Well done, Cowboy. Well done. Hey, did we want to get to this Major League Baseball stuff today? And then we got to stay red hot here.
Absolutely, we do. I want to get this. I want to get these pitching matchups up here right now. And I see Duck Dad in the chat just before. We've sort of stayed away from this early game just because it starts like as we're as we're doing the lock shop. But sorry, Rod Z.
Yeah, it was Rod Z.
Has some great one. Okay, so Duck Dad says last game Hunter Brown pitched against the Tigers, went 7 scoreless with 9 Ks. And then here's Rod Z. Bet against Hunter Brown. All caps, Hunter Brown on the money line. As a home favorite of minus 175 to 250. Brown's team record since the 2023 season, 2-8.
Wow.
And I like the fact Rod Z's got another Sean Manaea on the money line playing a good team. 8-1. I'm here. And then bet the over total in Frankie Montas starts versus good power teams. The bet against Hunter Brown is interesting. If you do like it, and again, I kind of haven't touched on that game yet, yet. Hunter Brown is pitching for the Astros at home, and they have to win to stay alive. Houston's a minus 185 favorite. The Tigers plus, or let's see, that's off the thing. Minus 182, sorry. Minus 182 for the Astros, plus 153 for the Tigers right now at Coolbet. So if you do want to fade Hunter Brown, Tigers move on, go for it. I think everyone hates the Astros still, so that would be fine. Everyone would love that. And by the way, you were just mentioning how every pitch counts. So I finished the show yesterday, turned on the Royals Orioles game. That was epic, quintessential playoff baseball, like where every walk, every hit. Royals end up winning 1-0. They took out Cole Ragans after 6 amazing innings. He only had 80 pitches. I'm like going, what the heck? Are they outsmarting themselves here? The bullpen came in and just absolutely shut the door. The Royals became the first team to be on the road, to have 5 or less hits, and to only hit 4 batters above the minimum. They only had 31 guys come to the plate and win a playoff game.
Really?
So it was the pitching was incredible. They got the 1 hit they needed from Bobby Witt Jr., I believe, and they got the win. And the Royals are just one of those teams. I said it yesterday. They get to the playoffs. And again, what am I basing this on? 2015, 2014. I mean, Salvi Perez is the only guy still on that team right now.
It worked yesterday, though.
They've got something going on. And the Orioles are a team that has historically came up small in the moment. So I'm hoping for the Royals tonight. But for the double play, I think we go back to the 2 late games. Gives it a little bit more time to be up. And I'm going to go right back to the Mets. And I think I'm going to throw the Mets out for the play of the day today on the Coolbet socials. They're even money. The Brewers are minus 118. We just saw Rod Z's great stats on Sean Manaea, who's starting for the Mets today. There's just something about the Mets right now. And again, like, I don't think you can take too much from the first half of the season or even a couple months ago, although the Mets kind of after June were one of the best teams in baseball. But Dusty, when you think of the Mets, you think of a team that gives up 4 runs in the 8th inning in a game they absolutely have to have. You don't think of them as the team that hits the 2-run homer in the 9th to come back and win the game after blowing it. And I'll tell you what, I watched that game last night. Contreras gave them enough to get into those later innings. Their bullpen came in, was awesome, and their bats are smoking right now. And we're talking about the last 2 days, of course. I mean, there was no time off in between. In that game 161 that they won against top pitching on Atlanta, they put up 8. Yesterday, Milwaukee's got their ace to start the series on the hill. They put up 8. Their bats are hot right now. Their pitching is good. I'm taking the Mets to finish it off tonight. They're at even money, and I will throw that in for our double play, which cashed yesterday, including the Padres run line.
We can't sit here. I can't sit here. I don't think you would allow me to sit here after we anointed the Padres yesterday as our team in the lock shop here in the playoffs to all of a sudden flip-flop after they covered for us on a run line last night. Now this line is different. Padres money line tonight to finish this off, minus 119 here at home against the Braves. The run line is actually plus on the Padres side tonight at minus 222. So I'm going to continue to ride with the Padres, our boys, until they buck us. If they don't finish it tonight, I'll be back on them again right away after that. So Padres minus 119, which if we put that with the Mets, plus 268 is where that'll get us, plus a boost coming down the pipe. In fact, is it already up? Is the boost already up? Because I know we sent it to the boys. Yeah, there it is. It's already there. Plus 307.
Oh, you're seeing it right now?
Yeah, it's up there right now. I'm looking at it right now. Lock Shop double play. Mets money line, Padres money line, plus 307.
There we are. Let's get in on that right now. Place wager. Thank you very much. Sure would be nice to have a couple nice hot days of Major League Baseball heading into
hockey season.
5 in the NFL.
Oh yeah, and hockey season.
Tomorrow on the show will be fun. We'll hit the NFL Thursday nighter. We'll do our CFL picks, and then we'll get the wheel out for the wheel of unders.
Oh my goodness, the wheel of unders. I love it. Speaking of the wheel, if you were looking right now on the combo cards at the top of Coolbet, you'll see the EST random wheel from this morning. I don't know if the wheel did us dirty or if we just roll with the wheel, but it's at plus 683. The wheel this morning delivered us the Saints plus 4.5 against the Chiefs. Don't necessarily hate that one. You know, Chiefs win tight football games. So
they win and don't cover.
Yeah. So plus 4.5 there. The Raiders plus 3.5 against the Broncos, and the Jets plus 2.5 against the Vikings. The board is on 3 road dogs this week, the wheel. So we'll see.
Listen, folks, if you haven't seen already on the Coolbet socials, Jake does the NFL weekend review, and that is up. And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that underdogs last weekend went 10-5-1, I think, with 7 or 8 outright wins. Like, the dogs have been absolutely killing it. And I mean, I think back, I'm just looking at our chart for our picks this year, Dusty.
Yeah.
Like for our best bets. I'm 10-5-1 on the season. I am betting underdogs. I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9. I'm 9-0-1
on the dogs.
Betting dogs this year. 9-0-1,
which means you're 1-5 betting favorites.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the only. Or sorry, I'm 2-5 betting favorites.
Okay.
So I'm 8-0-1. In week 3, I had the Chiefs, they covered, and the Lions, they covered. But my 5 losses on the season: week 1, Houston minus 2.5, Baltimore and Dallas, the 2 big favorites in week 2, the Saints minus 2.5 in week 3, and then the Jets last week. So, I mean, at some point, you can't just take underdogs every single time. There'll be a favorite that you like. But I think the wheel was just watching the Coolbet socials, taking advice from Jake, and said, screw it. I'm taking 3 underdogs this week. And
that's it. Let's do it.
We'll see whether it happens. I may have to just sprinkle in solidarity of that.
Nielson and Huss with you here on the Lock Shop, presented to you by Coolbet. If you are listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you can text us at 780-218-9999. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for us. If we can get that likes ratio up high, up towards a views ratio, that might be our best case for show of the year, right? To have a real nice high likes ratio, because obviously the Esties are not being bet on which show brings you in the most profits. If that was the case, we would have won it this year. So I think we got to look for those thumbs up. So give us a like if you're watching today over on YouTube as well, and obviously tell your friends about the Lock Shop and Edmonton Sports Talk. All right, Huss, how many player props did you? Well, go ahead. Where are you going to go?
One quick thing. Matt Hyman asking, Huss, is CFL 110 live today? Yes, it is. Beautiful. Right after Winnipeg Sports Talk. The Hammer, I believe, is probably just getting to Toronto right now. He's on his way to Hamilton. So about 3:15 Winnipeg time, 2:15 Edmonton time, we will dive in. And just on the CFL, we will make our picks tomorrow for the 3 games this week.
Any movement?
We do. Oh, actually, let's take a look right now while we're at it.
I'm just taking a look right now.
Bombers are 4. Was it 4.5 yesterday?
It was no, it was 4 yesterday, I think.
Okay, so it's still 4.
Because you guessed it to be 4.5, and it was 4. No, so that's 4.
BC 7.5. And the Riders are still 2-point favorites over the Elks.
So no movement.
There is a for the community, for the Edmonton and Winnipeg fans.
Yes.
In the combo cards, boosted money line parlay, Bombers and Elks, boosted from plus 250 to plus 251. Love that. And one thing I did want to mention, dude. So remember last Monday, we were talking about the MOP on the Lock Shop.
Yeah.
We were saying, okay, who could win this other than Fajardo? And we focused in on Brady Oliveira and Trevor Harris. Well, Harris was 60-1. He's still 60-1. Brady Oliveira last Monday.
Oh, wow.
Was plus 1,400. Brady Oliveira today is plus 140.
A little bit of a readjustment here.
I've never seen anything like that. And Bo, by the way, is down to 10-1 as well. I know Hammer is making the case, and we'll get to this on CFL 110, that, Bo is the East MOP over Cody Fajardo.
Okay.
Anyways, we're going to be discussing that right now. But if you are one of the folks around here in Winnipeg, and I've got a few DMs from folks that were watching and jumped on that, because I think we talked about it on WST that day as well. Brady Oliveira at 14-1. I have never seen a number crash like that after one game before. But it has been reduced by 90%. It's now plus 140 for Brady to get it. So that was a beautiful thing. So yeah, player props. Why don't you start going through yours? I know you've got 10 ready. I have less ready, but I'm going to add a couple while we get. I was
just looking here. I'm at how many? So we always talk about that. We'll spin the under wheel tomorrow, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 overs and 3 unders this year. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 unders, 8 overs. 8 overs and 2 unders. I'm going to start at one of the storylines that I think a lot of people will be following for a good chunk of this year, especially if he starts hot. But I'm gonna ride with my man OV one last time. 29.5 goals is the number.
What does he need?
What's Trev? What's he need for the record for Wayne? OV 40, 41, 42. This is set at 29.5. He started last year horribly. But he finished with 23 goals in his last 36 games last year. So there's still something there. I mean, I believe it was it Strome that says his whole purpose coming in this year was to make sure Ovechkin gets the record. I mean, they're going to be feeding this guy like crazy. If Alexander Ovechkin stays healthy this year, he's scoring 30 goals. So I think if he stays healthy, he takes a run at the record. But Ovechkin over 29.5 goals. And I figured if I was going to ride with Ovi one last time, I might as well ride with Sid as well. The old Sid and Ovi in 2024. 20 years later, here we are. And his total, and I don't know if Sidney Crosby sends out a message to all of the sports books and says, hey guys, my point total this year will be set at 87.5. But sure enough, that's where it's at. It's at 87.5. He's had back-to-back like 92 or 93 point seasons. Stayed healthy through both of them. Played 82 games in the last 2 years. And last year, the Penguins' power play, which is still mystifies me a little bit. The Penguins' power play last year sucked. Like
it was so bad.
Yeah, like it was awful. And this dude still put up over 90 points. If their power play can even remotely improve to like being middle of the pack in the National Hockey League, if he plays 80 games, there should be a 90-point season there sitting again for Sidney Crosby. So I'll just start with those two veteran guys, Ovi over 29.5 goals, and Crosby to make it 3 straight seasons over 87.5 points. So I'll start with OV and Sid. I don't know if you have any thoughts on those 2 old guys still going at this point.
You know what? I just love it. I mean, we have been like I'm a little older than you, so like I did probably get a little bit more of Gretzky and Lemieux, but this era, the last 20 years, has been dominated by these guys, and they're both playing at an incredibly high level. I mean, Sid's still a top 10 player in the league. I don't think there's any question about that. In fact, come playoff time, he's probably a top 5 player in the league, or certainly at least in the conversation. And as far as Ovi goes, I mean, this team is trying to do one thing. Like, they won their cup a few years ago. They're obviously going to try and win games. They're going to try and make the playoffs, which they somehow did last year. But it's all about Ovechkin to become the greatest goal scorer of all time. I mean, he's going to get the ice time. He's going to get the reps. He's going to get the power play time. And I think you made a great point. Like, the first 30 games of last year, it kind of looked like this wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. And
then the second half of the season, he completely turned it around. So I'm definitely here for it. You know what? I'm going to throw out one for a guy on your team, the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay.
And I know there'll be a lot of people jumping on the Bouchard over 83.5. The McDavid. I love the fact that for McDavid, Draisaitl, and Crosby, there's an adjusted number 2. By the way,
for a few of the guys,
if you're a big Sid guy, and feel that this is going to be, one of his a great swan song year, and he can stay healthy. To me, 100 points is not out of the question for Sidney Crosby at all. Plus 315 on the over 99.5, that adjusted number. And I'll tell you what, he's in another conference. I'm just such a big fan of the guy. I might jump on that just because of how cool it would be. And don't put it past Sidney Crosby at this age to go out and have a monster year and push it on the other side of 100 points. So I just thought I would throw that out there. But the guy that I'm going with is Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman's point total for the year is 74.5. I mean, we know that he can score. We know that he's going to be playing with Connor McDavid almost exclusively. He had 54 goals last year and only 23 assists. Now, he is the best tap-in guy. He knows where to go. But I would argue that it's almost hard to only have 23 assists if you're playing 80 games with Connor McDavid. Like, regardless of what happens with the goals, say the goals comes down to from 54 to 45. Like, I think he's probably good for 35 assists this year. Like, I would be surprised if he doesn't get there. And listen, he's a workhorse too. I mean, you look at the last 3 seasons, 76, 79, and 80 games. I think Zach Hyman is just, people sort of take him for granted and they sleep on him because he's playing with McDavid. He's a guy who can get it done. Just quickly on Zach Hyman. Do you think that he makes Team Canada?
Oh, yeah. I think he'll be on Team Canada on McDavid's line. I think it's a more impressive Kunitz story. You know what I mean? Like, he's the perfect winger for Connor McDavid. I mean, and then you can take whoever you want to throw on the right side with him or on the left side with him, and then you can just load up that second line for Team Canada. Like, because Hyman can. I don't know how anybody can play better with McDavid than Hyman does. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's got. I think he scored 50 bloody goals last year. Like, it's justified just in the numbers alone. So I think he'll be on that team.
I mean, listen, I get the argument for it. I mean, the other thing, like, well, what would Sidney Crosby look like in that spot?
Yeah, well, he could play the left side. They could go Crosby, McDavid, and Hyman on the right side. It'd be 2 dogs on a puck with Sid and Hyman. I mean, you could do that, and then you could just run McKinnon with whoever the hell you want on the second line
with some finishing. Anyways, I do like the Hyman over. The other over that I really like, Quinton Byfield, LA Kings, over 60.5 points. if you look at Byfield last year, he had 20 goals. He had 55 points. It was a true breakout season playing in 80 games. He actually fell off pretty significantly in the last sort of 25 to 30 games, which often you see, and that's going to be a common thread with another guy that I like for an over. PLD is gone, so he's not going to be taking up that spot at center anymore, and he'll either be playing at center or more likely playing big minutes in the top six with their top players and playing on the power play as well.
Byfield's a stud. I love this guy. I have him on my place.
Stud.
Yeah.
He's an absolute stud. Knowing that he had 55 last year in his breakout season, I was expecting this number to be more like 67, 68, because I think he can and probably will be a 70-point player. So to get him at 60.5, I love Quinton Byfield over 60.5 this year.
Let me add to your Quinton Byfield, and I'll throw out a couple more here. I've got 3 Oilers. I'll save those. Byfield, 21.5 goals. That's my play here. I've got him for over 21.5 goals. He had 20 last year. He is only trending up. I mean, he's going to score 2 more goals this year after what you said with the way that his season started last year. I love Byfield over 21.5 goals. Byfield was a guy that when we were looking ahead to the 2026 Olympics, I think Trev and I did this in the summer at some point. I had Byfield on that Canadian team come the Olympics, like in a significant role in 2026. Like, I think he's that good. I think there could be a 70-point season coming for him this year. And then after that, the sky's the limit. So I absolutely love Byfield over 21.5 goals. And, I'll just stick with the young guys here for a second. I got 2 other young guys on this list. Connor Bedard. I'm going to take Connor Bedard over 80.5. If he stays healthy, if he stays healthy, I like Bedard over 80.5 points. And then the other one, and I know it's preseason, but this guy's going to get as much opportunity as any rookie in the league. Matvei Michkov, 52.5 points. And I think Michkov, and I'm not going to sit here and say he puts up 80, but I think Michkov, with the amount of ice time and the power play and everything he's going to get in Philly, now there's always the Torts factor, and we'll see how this plays out. But Michkov over 52.5 points, I do like that number. I think that's a reasonable number for him to attain. Like 55 to 63, 64 points, probably where I'd put Michkov. So I like him over 52.5. So on the younger guys, Byfield over 21.5 goals, Michkov over 52.5 points, and Bedard over 80.5 points.
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up because we are on opposite sides of the same guy twice. I had the Byfield points. You have the Byfield goals. You have the Michkov points. I'm looking at the Michkov goals.
What's that at?
22.5.
Ooh.
And, to me, like from what I remember, and again, we have not seen him a lot, but, from the World Juniors, he is just such a dynamic scorer and finisher. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes with more goals than he does assists this year, especially considering some of the supporting cast around him. So yeah, the Michkov, play it whichever the way you want, folks. But 22.5 is the goal prop on Matvei Michkov. And you know what? I'll throw out one other one right now while we're looking at some of the overs and people that we're high on. And this is one from right here in the peg, and it's Cole Perfetti. Now, if you recall, Perfetti missed the first week of training camp or first 4 or 5 days waiting on a new contract and got a deal, and it is very much a prove-it contract. He's making 3 this year. He's making 3.5 next year. Perfetti last year had 19 and 19 for 38 points in 72 games. He was great in the first half of the season and then hit a period where he played in 21 games, I think, and had an assist or 2 assists. And at that point, the Jets made some moves. They added Toffoli, they added Monahan, and Perfetti found himself not even in the lineup on some nights. Scott Arniel's taken over. He's been very clear. Cole Perfetti is in the top 6. They need him. He'll get power play time. He'll be playing with Nikolai Ehlers in all likelihood, and either Nemetsnikov, maybe some Brad Lambert in there. And he could absolutely end up on the Scheifele line too as well at some point if they do sort of mix things up. The Perfetti number is 44.5. If he doesn't get that, it'll be a very disappointing season for him, and I think the Jets. So lock in over 44.5 for Cole Perfetti in Winnipeg. He is in a perfect spot to significantly boost where he was last year. And I think come over. And then, you know what it is, young players. And I think the same thing with Byfield, who sort of hit that wall for a while last year. You realize what it takes to get through the 82 games once you really play it. And that was the first time Perfetti's played that much. He did hit the wall. I think he'll be more prepared to break through that this year. 44.5 for the young lion, as they call him here in Winnipeg.
I've got 2 unders. I'll save those. I'll give you the other 3 overs that I've got here in these 10-player props. Now, I'm throwing this guy in there because, you mentioned a lot of people are going to be on the points. Trev thinks that Bouchard could take a run at 30 goals at some point. I think Reed Wilkins said, somebody texted in and said Reed's saying he'd probably get about 24. The goal number on Bouchard's at 18.5 right now. So I'm going to get on the over Bouchard goals at 18.5. He had 18 last year. I mean, I still think he is getting better, both ends of the ice. I don't think it's crazy to think Bouchard's a 20-goal defenseman this year. So Evan Bouchard over 18.5 goals would be another over. Connor McDavid over 133.5 points. There's an adjusted total on McDavid as well, Huss. Do we know what the adjusted total on McDavid is? Is it like 149 or something like that?
Oh, sorry. I'm on the goals here. Hold on one second. Points. Connor McDavid. Okay, his just season total set at 133.5.
I'm on the over on that.
139.5.
Okay.
Goes from minus 112 to plus 200.
So another 7 points.
140 points season.
Another 6 points. I mean, it's possible. I think the 133 is right there for him, though. So I like that. And then Sam Reinhart scored 57 goals last year. His career high prior to that was 31. His total this year is 39.5. So I'm going to get on the over 39.5 for Reinhart. 57. I mean, is there a low 40s season here for Reinhart? Probably. I think putting it at 39.5 is a little bit disrespectful for a guy who sniped 57 last year. So I'm going to Reinhart over 39.5 because he doesn't even have to have even remotely close to the season he had last year to cover this 39.5.
Yeah, and one thing I can tell you that Paul Maurice freaking loves that guy. He gets put out there in all sorts of situations. He took sort of a team-friendly contract. He didn't go to, get the 8-figure deal elsewhere. He stayed in Florida with the Cup champs. He kind of reminds me of Morrissey in some ways when we're talking about the totals for points, because Josh last year, and I'll just pull this up again. Morrissey had a great season last year with 69 points, 10 and 59. The year before, he had 16 and 60 for 76. Morrissey's total last year, because again, he went from 37 points, which was a career high, to 76 points in one season. So they were thinking, okay, where do we put the number? And if I recall correctly, Morrissey last year was 54.5. We cashed that one in early March. Reinhart, same sort of thing. You go from 31 to 57. Well, they don't put it at 54. They sort of come into the middle of that number. And I would say they're leaning more towards the 31 than they are the 57. So Reinhart to score 40. Again, all these overs, you got to hope your guy plays close to the maximum number of games. But he's in pretty good shape. Just while I'm mentioning Morrissey, he was one of the first guys I wanted to see whether we could catch him sleeping again this year like we did last year. That's not the case. People have woken up and realized, maybe took a year or two, that Josh Morrissey is definitely one of the top players in the league. His total is 65 and a half which is a big number. Now, listen, he's done it in both the last couple of years, and I think he'll be right in the 60s somewhere. Tougher to jump on that one at 66. You really need your guy to play the full 81, 82 games to get there. Albeit he had 76 before. He's still going to be pretty much in the same role with the Jets. PP1, number one defenseman, tons of ice time. The only thing that I do wonder about Morrissey is that with the amount of time that he plays, like they're not putting him out just because like he's a guy that, oh, come on, I need to get the points. They happen because he's good and he plays a lot. But Colin Miller, who's basically going to be playing third pairing right side D for the Jets, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him on the power play. Now, maybe not PP1, but they might use their PP2 more. Just because the one thing the Jets have been missing on the power play for a long time is the big shot. Since Laine and Buff left town, they just haven't had anyone that can blast them like those guys. Miller is that dude. So I think he might be a little bit more involved in the PP this year, which might touch on it. But I'm going to probably, at least right now, stay away from that Josh Morrissey number because it's probably right where it should be. And just watch. He'll get somewhere between 64 and 66 points. And they'll be right. That number will be right there, basically on it.
The two unders that I have, one here in Edmonton and one in Winnipeg. Let me throw the Winnipeg one your way first. Kyle Connor, 79.5 points. This is a little bit of if he can stay healthy, I think he can get there. But I don't know. I almost feel like it's perfect scenario for him to put up an 80-point season. And I love the guy. And I think part of it is he's let me down in some fantasy hockey leagues because he's been banged up here and there. So I'm going to take Kyle Connor under 79.5 points.
Last year, he was hurt for a month. He played 65 games. He still scored 34, but he did end up at 61. I mean, the last two games, he's been under a point a game player. Very close.
Yeah.
He was 80 and 82 the year before, 61 and 65. You got to go back 2 years for that real breakout season where he had 47 goals, 46 points, and 93. And here's the one thing about Connor that I think plays into this. I know they're starting again with Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde. That line can score. They can also get scored on. And every measure of analytics as far as what they get to what they give up actually favors Nikolai Ehlers in that spot. Scott O'Neill, I think, is going to be less hesitant to break it up and change things a little bit if maybe that line isn't going well or isn't defending well. So I think you could potentially see Connor. I mean, Scheifele loves the guy and just wants to play with him, and I think that's part of it as well. But I listen, the number's really fair on that one. And again, the minute a guy misses 5 or 10 games,
that hurts that number, right?
You're pretty much on it.
The other under I have is Jeff Skinner here in Edmonton. The number's set at 62.5 points. And I just don't see a world where a guy can put up 62.5 points in Edmonton and not be on that top power play unit. If he was on the top power play unit, it would be an automatic. But to put up 62.5 points with limited, very limited power play time, I'm not sure how he gets that done. I mean, the top 5 guys here in Edmonton who are on the power play 80% of the time all put up huge numbers. Skinner would have to pull off a hell of a regular season at 5-on-5 to go over the 62.5. So I'm going to take Jeff Skinner under 62.5 points just because of the fact he's going to be so limited in any of the extra cookies you get on the 5-on-4.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny. I was looking at that one, and I wanted to bring it up, kind of see where we were at, like who is he playing with, who we're expecting.
Well, he looks like he's going to play with Draisaitl and Arvidsson on the second line, which is good, and he'll get probably 45 to 60 points. But unless somebody gets hurt and he's next man up on the power play, I just don't see how he gets 63 points this season. He's going to have a hell of a year to get that done.
Well, listen, I also wonder how he's going to a new team, a team that's been really successful. This is a guy that, I hope the Oilers don't miss the playoffs just because they have Jeff Skinner.
Oh boy.
Who has tee times made in April every single year. Can you believe he's over 1,000 games in the league and has never played a Stanley Cup?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It would be amazing. The only way I could see it this year is if he gets hurt and has to miss the playoffs. I mean, he's going to get a playoff game this year. So, yeah.
You never know.
But I like that under too.
Yeah. Playing with fire there in Edmonton. The curse of Jeff Skinner. Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. What about, just before we wrap up, what about Draisaitl and McDavid? Like, I was actually considering taking unders for both of those guys. Now, not because they're not two of the best players in the world, but do we not think that there's a potential that Knoblauch might manage minutes for these guys as they get down the stretch? I mean, knowing what it takes, and they just did it.
Yeah.
Won a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Like, he's had 50 goals. McDavid's done it. Like, there's not anything those guys need to do personal statistics wise. Draisaitl just signed his contract. He's not even playing for a contract. He's locked up forever. McDavid's going to get whatever the hell he wants if he's going to stay. Like, I do kind of think that there is an argument that both of those guys, might play a little less down the stretch in games that they, are well up on. Get that ice time down a little bit. Like, anything you can do to potentially have a little more gas in the tank for those guys in the middle of June where they expect to be. I think it's a conversation to have. And part of it is they're so damn good. Their numbers are so high. Like, you also, obviously, there's a chance of the guy getting hurt at some point. And at that point, those things are coming down. Like, I love having the conversation. McDavid can get 140, but these last couple of years was about McDavid getting the points, and he scored all the goals 2 years ago. For this team, it's about winning the Stanley Cup. Everything else is sort of secondary. So I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe use these guys a little differently down the stretch, depending on where they are in the standings, which I expect will be near the top, to keep them as fresh as possible come playoff time.
I think I got more time for that with Draisaitl. Just because what's the number on Draisaitl? Like 111? Is it 111?
Leon.
I think it's 111.
Yeah.
And he's only gone over 100. He's only gone over 111 once in his career. So you're looking at second best season that he's ever had. He had 106 points last year. Then he had 128 the year before that. Before that, he had 110, then 84 and 56, then 110, then 105. So, I mean, he's a walking 100 points. But 111, yeah, I could see playing the under on that. The McDavid one, I don't know. He was banged up at the beginning of last year, missed some time down the stretch, only played 76 games, still had 132 points, and was clipping along at like a 1.7 points per game, which puts him at 142 point pace. And the number's at 133 right now. So
if he wanted to get 150, he could.
Yeah.
Like, listen, this is not like, can he get it? Of course he can. My question more is about how those guys will be used if they have clinched a playoff spot with a month left. And like, I don't really think those guys care at all about the numbers as much, shall we say. So I'm in on the under on Draisaitl total points. I would never bet against him on goals, though, because the damn release of that guy, and on the power play, he could do that in probably get 50 in his sleep.
So what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk in like 2.5 minutes here?
Wyshynski's coming on. We'll be hitting a bunch of the top stories around the league.
We had him today. Yeah, he was good.
With the latest on the Jets preseason game. Talk a little bit of Bombers, and then get ready for CFL 110 right after WST.
Excellent, buddy. We'll talk to you tomorrow, man.
Later. Get that wheel ready.
Yeah, the wheel will be ready. That's going to do it for the Lock Shop. We got Oil Stream coming up here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Don't go anywhere.